The moment the new intern spilled coffee on my clothes, I awakened. Turns out, I'm a domineering CEO in a cliché and melodramatic novel, and standing before me is my female lead. But I already have a fiancé. And chastity is a man's best dowry. So I immediately fired the female lead and married the so-called vicious supporting character, my actual fiancé. The so-called vicious fiancé comes from a wealthy family, has a sweet face, and an incredibly hot body. I'm not stupid, and besides, I only love her. When the female lead lost her shared bike and tried to hitch a ride from me, I coldly refused. You can't even hang on to a shared bike. What makes you think you can hold on to love? She snapped back indignantly. People like you with only money will never find true happiness. I curled my lips into a cold smile. You're broke. What makes you think you know that money can't buy happiness? Chapter 1. The moment the new intern Morgana spilled coffee on me, I had my awakening. Turns out I'm the domineering male lead in a formulaic over-the-top drama novel. I'm the type who says stuff like time's up, let's bankrupt someone, or drags my doctor buddy in to harvest someone's kidney. Despite having an 8-pack, my health is terrible, chronic gastritis, constant insomnia. This is the beginning of the novel, Chapter 1. And the clumsy intern Morgana in front of me is clearly the female lead. But I already have a fiancé, beautiful, kind-hearted, and a natural 36D. Why would I give up my well-matched childhood sweetheart fiancé with a perfect 36D for this mess of a woman? Starting tomorrow, don't come back. I don't need an assistant who can't even manage a cup of coffee. Chastity is a man's best dowry. To avoid any future misunderstandings or accidents with my fiancée Laura due to the plot, I must stay far away from the female lead. Morgana's eyes welled up. I'll pay for the shirt. Please don't fire me. I frowned. That shirt cost tens of thousands. You can't afford to replace it. But if you resign voluntarily, I won't hold it against you, and I'll even give you N+1 severance. Such generous terms, who wouldn't take them? But she didn't. I can't afford it right now, but I can work as your maid to pay you back. Typical. The original plot has her breaking one of my brooches, then working off the debt as a maid in my house. Only, she ended up breaking even more things, and yet somehow I lost my mind, thought she was quirky and refreshingly different, and ended up falling for her. We bickered cutely every day like we were in a rom-com. Even the butler said, "Young master hasn't smiled like this in years." Hearing her now, I shook my head violently. I already have professional help. I don't need you. And besides, your name. It's unlucky for me. Just go. Morgana thought I was picking on her just to be mean. Her eyes turned red, like she might shatter at any second. In the original novel, I probably would have been moved by this, but now that I'm self-aware, all I feel is irritation. I waved her off, signaling for her to pack her things and leave. The moment she was gone, the air felt fresher. That overwhelming smell of cheap detergent finally disappeared. In the original story, I somehow loved the smell of detergent on her clothes and hated the designer perfume on my fiancé, even though I personally picked out that scent. The author really had the nerve to question my taste. Disgraceful. At lunch, I suddenly found my food unappetizing. It reminded me of a scene in the book where I'm struggling to eat, but then glance over at Morgana. She's scarfing down food like a champ, and somehow that makes me feel like eating too. From then on, I started having lunch with her every day, our relationship heating up fast. Not long after, I gifted her an entire villa. Now that the plot's been interrupted, even my lunch tastes bland. But I'm not worried, let professionals handle professional problems. I pulled out my phone to find a mukbang video. To stick to my principles of male virtue, I made sure to choose a male streamer. The food in front of me instantly tasted better. I sent the streamer a few gifts and commented, "Bro, you eat better than the female lead." I don't need Morgana in my life. I refuse to be a slave to the plot. Chapter 2. After lunch, I called my fiancée Laura and took her to the hospital for a checkup. According to the plot, both of our health conditions are supposed to be extremely concerning. I'll end up with stomach pains and insomnia from not having Morgana by my side, and Laura's kidney will fail, so I can then put Morgana through torment and steal her kidney. Now that I know the plot, I have to plan ahead and prevent it from taking over my life. Sure enough, both Laura and I were diagnosed with the expected problems. Laura even had to be hospitalized. The day my younger brother Luis returned to the country, I drove to the airport to pick him up. Halfway there, in a remote area near the outskirts of the city, I unexpectedly ran into Morgana again. She stood in the road wearing a faded dress, tears in her eyes. I rolled down the window, and she froze when she saw my face. Then she bit her lip and asked, President Law, could I possibly get a ride with you? I frowned. In the original plot, Morgana came with me to pick up Luis as my assistant. Luis, the second male lead in the story, fell for Morgana at first sight. And from that moment, he fought me to the death for her until both of us were ruined. Now, even though she's no longer working for my company, she still ran into me at exactly the same time and place. Is the plot really this hard to shake? Seeing me frown in silence, Morgana quickly explained, I'm heading to a job fair nearby, but while I was buying water, someone took my shared bike. The job fair's really close by. Could you maybe? No. If you can't even hang onto a shared bike, how are you going to hold on to love? I was terrified that if she got in my car, the plot would throw something else at me. So I rejected her flatly and sped off, leaving a trail of exhaust behind. But what I didn't expect was that, even after I disrupted their fated meeting, Luis still met Morgana. He'd only been at LawCorp for 2 days when he personally hired a new secretary. Of course, it was Morgana. She ended up at LawCorp anyway, but from now on, she'd be spilling coffee on Luis instead of me. After Morgana spilled coffee on Luis for the 18th time, accompanied by an ear-piercing splatter, I couldn't take it anymore. Maybe move her to another role. At the very least, stop letting her handle your coffee. No. Luis looked at Morgana with a soft smile and shook his head dotingly. Joel, don't you think she's special? Besides, I'm not as heartless as you, firing someone over a cup of coffee. I'm doing this for your own good, and you're turning it into some kind of emotional contrast experiment. I couldn't deal with this lunatic couple, so I had more soundproofing added to my office. Luis seemed to be following the plot, deeply in love with Morgana. But the issue is, he stole my script. He's now walking the path of forced love and dramatic obsession. In the original novel, he was supposed to be the gentle and considerate guy on the surface, but secretly a twisted dark-enderer type. But now, something about him feels off. He knows full well I dislike Morgana, yet he still brought her back to the law household. He even had her wear a maid's uniform and do chores, while I ended up being an extra in their twisted domestic play. Morgana brought dinner to the table. Luis gazed at her like he was drowning in adoration. Then came the butler's classic line, second young master has never brought a girl home before. And he hasn't smiled like this in years. Yet, just like in the original, Morgana can't cook at all. On the table were nothing but plain congee and some pickled vegetables. She brought me a bowl. President Law, you're stomach sensitive, try to eat more congee. In the original plot, this gesture moved me. Now, I was just speechless. What kind of top-tier CEO only eats plain congee? I endured it for the first and second day, but by the 7th day in a row, I finally lost it. Morgana, I'm a CEO for God's sake. Am I not worthy of at least 4 dishes and a soup? Sorry. Morgana apologized with a pale face, but Luis held her hand and said, Brother, I know you don't like me, but could you not take it out on Morgana just because of me? Hearing this melodramatic line made my eye twitch. Luis is my half-brother, born from our father's affair. When I was 10 and my mother passed away, father brought Luis into the law household. I can't say I hate him. After all, no one chooses their birth. It was father who cheated, not Luis. But after reading the original novel, I finally understood, Luis deeply resents me. He hates how easily and rightfully I have everything he wants. He has no real interest in anything, only in beating me. In taking everything that belongs to me. On the outside, he plays the pitiful little brother, but in truth, he's a deranged maniac. In the original, to win Morgana and take down LawCorp, Luis committed more than half the crimes in the penal code, and was eventually shot dead by the police. Now that I've stopped competing with him for Morgana, maybe his mental state will stabilize a bit. He is my brother, after all. I'd like his ending to be rewritten. I looked at him inside. You two enjoy your dinner. I'll move out for now, don't want to be the third wheel. President Law, there's nothing between Luis and me. We're just a normal boss and subordinate. Don't get the wrong idea. Before Luis could say anything, Morgana quickly waved her hands and tried to explain. In the original story, she was always like this, wavering between us, never confirming her feelings for either one. Every time someone got jealous, she'd instantly wipe her hands clean and deny everything, hooking both of us brothers in tighter and tighter. I shrugged without even looking at her and stared straight at Luis. Not my problem. Luis curled his lips into a smile, but his eyes stayed cold, the look unreadable. I turned and went to pack up my room. Chapter 3. Laura, my fiancée, had just been discharged from the hospital recently. I bought a new apartment and planned to move in with her. But Laura shook her head and declined, muttering under her breath, even if I go, you'll just kick me out again. I didn't quite catch what she said and looked at her confused. What? It's nothing. I just meant I'll have to move again soon, kind of troublesome. Our wedding is coming up, and once we're married, we're supposed to move back into the Law family estate. What she said wasn't unreasonable. I thought about it and nodded, choosing not to press further. Laura had been acting a little strange lately, but I was too busy keeping an eye on Luis and Morgana, so I hadn't paid much attention to her. Our dates were still the same as before, but the way she looked at me had changed. More and more often, her gaze was analytical, almost like she was studying me. After dinner, she rested her chin in her hand and stared at my face. I frowned. What are you looking at? Laura quickly forced a smile, awkward but polite. Oh, nothing, nothing. Then why are you smiling? Well, you know the saying, you don't hit someone who's smiling at you. I should probably smile at you more often. Her face still held that strange, polite, awkward smile. Laura, have I ever hit you? We'd been childhood sweethearts, known each other for over a decade. I've always spoiled her, respected her. I've never lost my temper or even raised my voice, let alone laid a hand on her. You haven't. But in the future, who knows? She lowered her eyes. Her long lashes trembled slightly, making her look fragile. I raised my hand and gently patted her head, looking into her eyes with warmth as I promised, I never will, Laura. I'll always love you. Her body stiffened just a little, and a tear silently rolled down her cheek. Chapter 4. Maybe it was the influence of the story's plot, but Morgana kept showing up in front of me, if not sharing the same elevator, then bumping into me while delivering files. Once, when Laura came to wait for me after work, Morgana happened to pass by. Her heel suddenly broke, and she fell directly into my arms. I quickly pushed her away. That'll cost extra. I'm so sorry, President Law. Laura was walking toward us at that very moment and saw the whole scene clearly. Laura, don't misunderstand. She stopped right in front of Morgana, her voice trembling slightly. You're Morgana, right? Morgana was stunned. How do you know my name? A trace of bitterness flashed through Laura's eyes, but she responded dismissively, you just look familiar. Maybe we were classmates. But that was impossible. Morgana had tested into a top university in our city from a small rural town, while Laura had gone to elite private schools her whole life and studied abroad for college. There's no way they were classmates. I looked at Laura and shook my head. Laura, we've always been in the same class. She's definitely not one of our classmates. Laura sighed, as if she didn't want to continue this conversation. I can't remember clearly anyway. Let's go eat, Joel. Then she waved at Morgana. We'll get going. Bye. In the original plot, by this point I was already in love with Morgana and demanding to call off my engagement to Laura. I told her childhood friends couldn't compete with fated lovers, that love couldn't be controlled, and begged her to set me free. Laura was devastated by my betrayal and turned into the classic vicious fiancé. But truthfully, it was Morgana and I who were in the wrong. One of us couldn't keep it in his pants and cheated with a subordinate, and the other seduced a man who was already engaged. I remembered Laura's pain from the novel. I'd wake up in the middle of the night wanting to slap myself. I truly deserved the worst. Maybe it was my awakening that changed the plot, creating a butterfly effect. Maybe that's why Laura blurted out Morgana's name. After all, the Laura in the original story was pitiful. She was hurt so badly by Morgana and me. In the end, I even caused her family to go bankrupt just to be with Morgana, ruining everything she had. But this time, I've awakened. I'll stay in control. I'll love Laura, and only Laura. Because real love isn't about impulse, it's about consistency and commitment. Chapter 5. Ever since Laura met Morgana, she started acting even stranger. She often used work as an excuse to cancel our dates, and her gaze became evasive whenever she looked at me. Until one day, she finally agreed to have dinner with me, but after we finished eating, she said, Joel, I've decided to go abroad for further studies. Huh? The villainous fiancé going abroad? I don't remember that happening in the original plot. I frowned. But we're about to get engaged. That's exactly why I need to leave, before it's too late. The words slipped out of her mouth, and she quickly covered her lips, realizing she had said too much. Too late for what? I sensed something was off and stared at her intently. Under the weight of my questioning gaze, Laura finally gave in. She sighed, defeated, and said with a hint of self-mockery, I had a dream a while ago. In it, our world was just a novel. You were the male lead, and I, just a side character, the cliché vicious fiancé. The real female lead was someone else. Her name was Morgana. She always accidentally fell into your arms. At first, I thought it was just a dream until the day I saw her in real life. Laura had awakened too. Seeing her face filled with hurt, yet afraid I wouldn't believe her, made my heart ache. "You must think I've lost my mind, don't you?" she said, biting her lip, pain flickering in her eyes. I pulled her into a hug without hesitation, gently cradling her head against my chest. "Laura, so you've awakened too. But didn't you notice? I haven't followed the script at all. Even if we are just characters in some book, we're still real people. I won't let the plot control us. I only love you." "Really? You already knew all of this too?" Maybe it was the pressure she'd been under for too long, but Laura finally broke down crying. Her voice trembled, and her shoulders shook. "In the book, you became a complete stranger. You gave up everything for Morgana." "Don't say it." "Laura, that wasn't me." I leaned down and kissed her, cutting off the rest of her sentence. "Until now, I thought I was the only one who had awakened. I wanted to shoulder everything on my own, to protect the people I love, to keep these bizarre emotions from affecting Laura. But I never expected that she too would fall into this Truman Show-like nightmare. To realize your world is just a novel, what a terrifying, disorienting truth." I gently patted her shoulder, trying to calm her. "From now on, we'll face everything together, okay? No matter what it is, talk to me first." Tears welled in Laura's eyes again, but she nodded and gave me a soft, butterfly-like kiss on the cheek. "So, you're not going abroad anymore?" I looked at her as I asked. She shook her head quickly. "If you're not going to end up with Morgana, and you won't hurt me because of her, of course I won't go." After learning about the plot, I was so terrified I wouldn't run fast enough, that you'd say it's time. Let the Laura family go bankrupt. Silly girl. I ruffled her hair, and in that moment, I found her more adorable than ever. Chapter 6. Laura finally moved into my apartment. Life, once thrown off balance by her awakening, seemed to be back on track. That weekend, I brought Laura with me to a business gala. Right at the entrance, we ran into Luis and Morgana. Looks like things were heating up between them. For such an important business event, Luis actually brought Morgana as his date. In the original novel, this gala was a major turning point. Morgana attended with me as my date, but Laura, having just turned evil, spiked her drink. She had arranged for a few men to ruin Morgana while she was unconscious and had even invited the press and media to make it go viral and completely destroy Morgana's reputation. But thanks to Morgana's protagonist Halo, the men went into the wrong room, and after a series of exhausting plot twists, I found her just in time. When the media burst in, they became part of our little scene. Right there in front of everyone, I declared I was breaking off my engagement with the vicious Laura and would marry Morgana instead. And now, right here, Morgana saw me and immediately let go of Luis's arm. President Law, what a coincidence. Her eyes lowered, and the hem of her white dress fluttered in the wind like she was about to shatter. But Laura squeezed my hand tightly. I gave her a reassuring glance, then raised an eyebrow at Morgana. Not much of a coincidence. My fiancé and I are naturally invited to this kind of event. As Luis's date, you'd better stick close to him, Miss Bai. If you get separated, you might be mistaken for a crasher and get kicked out. Morgana's face darkened. Luis, however, wrapped his arm around her waist and said gently, "It's fine, Morgana. I won't lose sight of you." I wasn't about to stick around for their couple show. I led Laura inside without looking back. After working in the same company for a while, I had seen nothing in Morgana that matched the supposed charm or shining humanity the book described. She came off as ambitious, always telling herself, "You got this, Morgana." But in reality, she never accomplished anything. She couldn't even move past making plain porridge after a week in the kitchen. Same with work. Even with Luis supporting her, she showed no improvement. Back in college, Laura and I lived together overseas. She only followed some online tutorials for a few days and could already cook an entire table's worth of dishes. She never said much, but always put in the effort quietly, and always amazed me. Clearly, the author had lost her mind, making me abandon Laura and simp after Morgana. As for Luis's obsession with Morgana, it must be just another product of the protagonist filter. Later during the event, while heading to the restroom, a figure in white suddenly stumbled into my arms. "It's so hot," she mumbled as she clung to me. I immediately pushed her off. Under her disheveled hair, I saw Morgana's flushed face. "What are you doing here?" President Law, her eyes were glassy, cheeks red. "Help me." Her gaze was watery and vulnerable, almost criminally so. But my heart belonged to Laura. Even if another woman stripped naked in front of me, I wouldn't feel a thing. I pushed Morgana further away. Snap out of it. Where's Luis? She bit her lip, looking dazed. I don't know. I feel hot, dizzy, please help me. This was bizarre. Laura didn't drug her this time, so why was she acting like this? Could it be that certain plot points are fixed no matter what we do? My head started to ache. Still, I had no choice. I grabbed her arm. Come with me. It wasn't safe for a woman to be in this condition. I might dislike, no, even resent her, but I couldn't just leave her like that. Morgana followed me obediently. Where are we going? She trailed behind, groggy and slurring. I didn't respond, just sighed. When we reached the pool deck, I walked her to the edge and kicked her straight into the water. There. This is the place. Help! Help! That finally seemed to wake her up. She flailed around in the pool. You'll be fine. You won't drown. Just cool off. I pulled out my phone and dialed Luis. Come get your girl. Morgana's been drugged. But Luis didn't sound the least bit worried. Bro, you can talk nonsense about food, but not about people. Morgana and I have a clean, professional relationship. But you can't even keep track of your own fiancé. What are you doing running off? The moment he mentioned Laura, alarm bells went off in my head. What did you do to Laura? Joel, I'm okay. Don't worry. Laura's voice came through the line. So they were together. I'm coming to find you right now. Ever since Laura and I awakened, the plot has completely changed. Who knows when that seemingly gentle Luis might snap? Laura being alone with him could be dangerous. Don't worry, bro. I just confessed my feelings to your fiancé. Luis chuckled. What? I don't care what you feel. She's my fiancé. Stay away from her. Sure, healthy love is nice. But twisted love? That's where the fun is. I like her. What does that have to do with her being your fiancé? Luis had completely lost it. I immediately called Laura, got her location, and rushed over. As for Morgana, still splashing around in the pool, a swarm of paparazzi happened to show up just in time. I'll let them fish her out. Chapter 7. For a while, it actually seemed like Morgana and Luis had become purely a boss and subordinate relationship. Luis had begun obsessively pursuing Laura, while Morgana occasionally even helped him strategize, like the two of them were partners in some romantic conquest. Honestly, they were a deranged pair. I couldn't understand how the plot had twisted into this. After the media caught footage of me kicking Morgana into the pool, she came forward and clarified publicly that she had been drugged, and I had only done that to help her. Suddenly, public opinion turned overwhelmingly in my favor, and even our company's stock price rose. But right at that moment, an obscure startup suddenly emerged from nowhere, outbidding me by a tiny margin each time and stealing several important projects from under my nose. Laura and I both felt something was wrong. Every affected project had been mentioned in the novel, while the ones that hadn't been written about remained untouched. Which meant someone else besides us had awakened. And things were worse than we imagined. This mysterious company wasn't just intercepting projects, they'd also acquired several key pieces of land crucial to LawCorp's future development. Important business plans had clearly been leaked, putting the company's growth for the next few years in jeopardy. At first, I suspected Luis. In the original novel, he secretly started a rival company and siphoned off LawCorp's assets to fight me. But then Morgana brought someone named Justin to my office, and I realized the awakened one wasn't Luis. It was her. She introduced Justin as a friend and asked if I'd consider signing him. In the novel, Justin was the gentle male side character, always there to comfort Morgana, serenading her with a violin on the rooftop, or taking her shopping for clothes and shoes at niche luxury stores. This was a typical early 2000s Mary Sue CEO novel, where every male character, even the neighborhood tomcat, fell head over heels for Morgana. Though Justin didn't have much screen time, he did briefly protect Morgana when Luis and I were both pursuing her aggressively. But in the original plot, Morgana didn't meet Justin until after he was already a superstar. And he didn't debut under LawCorp either. Right now, Justin was still a nobody in the entertainment world. So how did Morgana know him, and why was she introducing him to LawCorp? The answer was obvious, she had awakened too. By bringing a future A-list celebrity into LawCorp while he was still unknown, she was not only gaining Justin's gratitude but also trying to earn my admiration. What a clever move. LawCorp has businesses in many sectors, including entertainment. I acted like I didn't know and agreed to sign Justin. After all, he had male lead tier luck and a future superstar role in the story. Signing him was guaranteed profit. Sure enough, as soon as Justin debuted under LawCorp, his very first album exploded. He made so much money he could have supported an entire department alone. I told Laura about Morgana and Justin. She raised an eyebrow. Seems like that drug at the gala may have been Morgana's idea all along. With that, something suddenly clicked for me. So many plot points had coincidentally led me to Morgana, despite my best efforts to avoid them. It wasn't coincidence. She had awakened too, and was trying to follow the plot and win me over. But if you already know the timeline of this world, why not focus on building your own empire? Why spend all your time chasing a man? Laura's been with me all this time, and she's never once given up on her own ambitions. We studied the same major. She actually got slightly better grades than I did. After graduation, she's been doing quite well in her own family's company. That's what truly makes a woman attractive, someone who stands on her own. Not some parasitic vine, wrapping itself around whoever's nearby. A few days later, Morgana brought in another guy named Chen Ming, a future sports champion from a well-known pro team, and another one of her simping side characters in the book. I thought about it and signed him too. Another surefire win. Then Laura and I sat down and reviewed the novel's storyline together. We made a list of every named male side character and their industry. I handed it to my assistants and told them to recruit any of the future stars who hadn't made it big yet. Helping someone when they're down matters more than when they're already successful. If we offer them a lifeline now, it'll mean more than anything Morgana could ever offer. I trusted they'd make the smart choice. Sure enough, when Morgana realized all her future male leads had been poached by LawCorp, she completely broke down. She stormed into my office. "You've awakened too, haven't you?" I hadn't expected her to be so direct. I nodded. Her lips trembled. She looked like she might break into pieces. "Then you should know, we're destined to be together. I brought you Justin and the others for your sake. I've always wanted to help you, stand by your side just like in the story, to be your wife. But I already have a fiancée. I can't betray her, and I don't like you." I told her honestly. Her eyes turned red. Her shoulders shook slightly. Our ending in the book, it was so beautiful. I've done everything to recreate it. Why are you treating me like this? I hadn't realized she was this obsessed with the script. I sighed. Since we've awakened, why stay trapped by the plot? We should be carving out our own lives. Is it because Laura's richer than me? Is that why you chose her after awakening? Otherwise, I just can't understand. Joel, I am the female lead. She stared at me in silence, her voice suddenly sharp. In Morgana's mind, being the protagonist meant the world should revolve around her. But I knew no amount of reasoning would reach her now. I shrugged, a little impatient. Yeah, it's because Laura's rich. I've awakened, why wouldn't I want to keep getting richer? Morgana clutched the hem of her dress and shouted at me, "Money alone won't make you happy. We're meant to follow the plot." I smirked. "You don't even have money. What makes you so sure money won't bring happiness?" Tears streamed from her eyes as she stared at me, completely disillusioned. "Joel, you'll regret this. I am the female lead of this world." Chapter 8. Morgana's way of making me regret was to leave LawCorp and join the small company Luis had secretly founded. They openly declared war on me, trying to steal my business. She still thought she was the female lead, protected by the protagonist's halo. But she forgot one thing, this was a CEO novel. I'm the male lead, and in the business world, I'm the absolute center of gravity. More importantly, she never actually worked hard on her business skills. All her energy went into manipulating men. Knowing a few plot points doesn't make her competitive. She had no real professional ability. In front of me, she was no match at all. I changed the project names for several proposals, and sure enough, her side still bid using the original names mentioned in the novel. Clearly, Morgana was the only one who had awakened. Luis couldn't possibly be this clumsy. So I created 2 fake projects with identical names. As expected, they poured even more resources into them. I calculated the cash flow on Luis's side, leveraged it, and shorted their entire company. Sure enough, Morgana got kicked out by Luis. Turns out Luis never fully trusted her. She had been held responsible for most of the company's operations. Now that the company had gone bankrupt, Morgana was left with massive debt. Once again, she came crawling to me. "Joel, please, help me pay off the debt. I shouldn't have helped Luis go against you. You and I were meant to be together." Her eyes were red and puffy from crying. She looked pitiful, even fragile. I hadn't expected Luis to be this ruthless, watching her take the fall without blinking. After all, he hadn't awakened yet, and according to the plot, he was supposed to be in love with Morgana. "I knew all along that company was yours." I sighed as I looked at her. You really thought knowing a few plot twists and project names would let you control this world? Sure, this world was born from a novel, but we are living, breathing people. After Laura and I awakened, we simply wanted to escape the story's control, not to manipulate it. But Morgana, her sense of superiority as the main character had been obvious from the moment she woke up. And that's why I never found her likable. Every time we met, we ended on bad terms. She never noticed how far she'd strayed from her original self, and still insisted on believing she was some chosen heroine. We were standing outside the company building. It was a bad look to be seen arguing in public, so I turned to leave. But before I could take another step, she suddenly rushed at me and threw the contents of a cup toward me. In that split second, Luis appeared and shoved me out of the way. I landed safely, but Luis got drenched in most of the liquid. The moment it touched his skin, his flesh began to corrode. The air filled with the sickening stench of burnt flesh. It was sulfuric acid. Morgana had thrown acid at me. Security rushed over to restrain her, and bystanders called emergency services. Luis was badly injured. He crouched on the ground, the burns on his body horrifying to look at. I tried to help him to the washroom to rinse it off, but he stopped me. Bro, I'm sorry. He forced a weak smile. That familiar gentleness was still there. I looked at him, heart aching. It's okay. Why were you so foolish? I awakened this morning. He paused, then continued, I never wanted to hurt you. I just wanted to prove I was better than you. But fate always favored you. You two awakened right in chapter 1, and me? Only just now. He sighed, yet his voice held a kind of peace. Whether in the book or in real life, I've only ever wanted to beat you. That's why I tried to take what was yours, Morgana, and even Laura. But maybe that's fate. I've never been able to surpass you. I dragged him to the washroom and grabbed the hose. Stop monologuing like a villain and rinse this off already. He couldn't help but laugh. All right, let's rinse. Bro, I won't go against you again. I was so stupid. After all, we're brothers. The ambulance siren wailed in the distance. I got in and stayed by Luis's side. There was a chapter in the original novel from Luis's perspective. It described him perfectly. Because of our father, he always felt the need to prove himself better than me. He didn't really want LawCorp or even Morgana. He just wanted to win. But we're brothers of family. Why fight each other to the bitter end? During Luis's hospitalization, I personally took care of him. For the first time, we really talked openly as brothers. It turned out that after Morgana awakened, she noticed I was acting differently than in the original plot. So she went to Luis, told him she had returned from a previous life, and knew how this world would unfold. She predicted several events that came true. Luis believed her, and they began working together. Since I showed no interest in Morgana, Luis never liked her either. Everything was just an act, something Morgana asked him to do to stir up jealousy in me and realign the plot. In exchange, she gave Luis insider info, like what I would bid on upcoming projects, so he could secretly compete with me. It wasn't until Luis awakened that he realized how pointless the struggle was. Fate had already chosen me to awaken first. My relationship with Luis improved by leaps and bounds after that. As for Morgana, she was sent to the sewing machine, a Chinese idiom now used online to mean jailed. On the day of her sentencing, she even shouted in court that she was the female lead and swore she'd make everyone pay when she got out. But really, what are main and side characters anyway? We all have our own consciousness. We're all the protagonists of our own lives. Laura and I rewrote our ending. Not long after Morgana went to prison, Laura and I held a grand wedding. Luis, Justin, and the other former male side characters from the novel all stood by my side as groomsmen. The future is long, and one by one, they'll begin their own new stories, and meet the true female leads meant for them.